There is nothing you need to do right now. No posture to hold. No thought to finish. No effort to make this work. You are allowed to rest exactly as you are. As you listen, you don't need to follow every word. You don't need to understand anything. Your conscious mind can drift, wander, or fade in and out. That is perfectly fine. Nothing important will be missed. This moment is not asking you to change. It is only offering you a place to soften. You may notice the surface of your body first, where it meets the bed, the chair, the floor, whatever is holding you. You don't need to adjust it. Just notice that something is already supporting your weight. Your body understands how to rest. It has done this thousands of times before. Even if your mind feels busy, your body knows the way. If thoughts appear, let them pass through like background noise. You do not need to push them away. You do not need to follow them. They can move on by themselves. There is no urgency here. Nothing is waiting for you to perform. Nothing is about to go wrong if you relax. You may feel a gentle slowing now, not forced, not controlled, just a natural easing, like the moment before sleep when the day starts to lose its edges. Your breathing can remain exactly as it is. You don't need to change it. Your body will adjust on its own as you continue listening. It's okay if your awareness drifts in and out. That drifting is part of the process. Your subconscious does not require focus. It responds to safety, and safety is what this moment is creating. There is nothing hidden in these words. No commands, no pressure, no expectations placed on you. Only a gentle environment where your system can finally stop scanning. If your eyelids are open, they can close whenever they want. If they are already closed, they can stay that way. You don't need to decide. Right now, the only thing happening is permission. Permission for your nervous system to downshift. Permission for the constant internal monitoring to pause. Permission for rest to begin without conditions. You are not falling behind by resting. You are not missing anything important. This is not time lost. This is time returned. Your subconscious recognizes moments like this, moments where nothing is demanded, moments where it can finally come forward without being watched. You may begin to feel slightly heavier, or lighter, or nothing at all. All responses are correct. There is no finish line in this experience, no goal you are supposed to reach before sleeping. Sleep is not something you must achieve. It arrives when the system feels safe enough and safety grows quietly. Even if part of your mind stays alert, another part is already letting go. You don't need to separate them. They can coexist. The world outside does not need your attention right now. Sounds can fade into the background or blend into the silence between thoughts. They do not require interpretation. You are allowed to step back from meaning, from analysis, from trying to figure out what comes next. Nothing is being decided tonight. Nothing needs to be solved. Your future does not require effort in this moment. All that is happening is a gentle transition from doing to allowing. from holding to being held. And as this section continues to play, you may already notice that your mind is less interested in controlling the experience, less interested in checking, less interested in staying alert. That's not something you are making happen. It's something your system naturally does when it realizes there is no threat. You can let this voice remain in the background now. It does not need your attention. It can accompany you the way ambient sound accompanies sleep. Nothing will suddenly change. Nothing needs to. The shift begins softly, beneath awareness. You are safe to rest. You are safe to drift. You are safe to sleep. And whether you remain aware for a while longer or fade gently into sleep, your subconscious has already begun listening, because it listens best when you no longer try. Your body is already doing something important for you. Even now, without effort, without instruction, it is listening inward. You don't need to help it. You don't need to guide it. The intelligence that keeps your heart beating and your breath moving does not need supervision. As you continue resting here, your body begins to recognize a familiar signal, a signal it associates with safety, with permission, with nothing to prepare for. Muscles that have been quietly holding tension throughout the day no longer need to stay alert. Not because you tell them to relax, but because there is no longer a reason to stay tight. You may notice small changes, a subtle warmth, a gentle heaviness, a softening around the jaw, the shoulders, the hands, or you may notice nothing at all. All responses mean the same thing. Your system is settling. The nervous system does not relax because it is told to. It relaxes when it no longer detects danger. And right now, there is nothing to respond to. There is no task ahead, no demand waiting for you after this moment. No sudden requirement to be alert. Your body understands this kind of pause. It recognizes the rhythm, the slowing, the absence of urgency. Even if your mind still moves, your body can rest independently. They do not need to synchronize. The body can descend first. Breath continues in its own way, in its own timing, sometimes shallow, sometimes deep, sometimes barely noticed. You do not need to change it. The breath knows how to find what it needs. As your body rests more deeply, your nervous system begins to recalibrate, not dramatically, not suddenly, just enough to signal that vigilance is no longer required. This is not collapse. This is regulation. The body is not shutting down. It is returning to balance. You may sense a quiet internal shift, as if something that was constantly checking the environment has finally stepped back. Not asleep, just no longer on guard. There is nothing wrong with staying awake. There is nothing wrong with drifting off. Both are welcomed here. This space does not reward effort. It responds to ease. You are not being monitored. Nothing is evaluating how well you are doing. There is no correct pace. If sensations arise, itching, swallowing, adjusting your body will handle them automatically. You do not need to interfere. Each moment you remain here, your system gathers more evidence that it is safe. Evidence built not from words, but from the absence of pressure, the absence of expectation. Your shoulders no longer need to brace. Your stomach does not need to stay tight. Your hands can rest without holding. Even if tension remains, it is allowed. It will release when it is ready. Forcing release is not required. Your body is learning that rest is permitted without consequence, that nothing bad follows stillness, that letting go does not lead to loss of control. This learning happens quietly, below thought, below intention, and as this understanding settles in, the body naturally shifts toward a slower internal rhythm, one that supports repair, restoration, integration. You are not doing this. It is happening because the conditions are right. If your awareness fades slightly, that is welcome. If it sharpens briefly, that is fine too. Fluctuation is part of settling. Nothing needs to be held in mind. You do not need to remember anything said here. Your subconscious absorbs what matters without effort. Right now, the body feels less like something you must manage and more like something you can trust. Trusted systems relax. As this section continues, the sense of safety becomes more familiar, more ordinary, less noticeable, and that is how deep rest begins. Not with effort, not with commands, but with quiet permission that allows the body to return to what it already knows how to do. You can let the voice remain distant now, like a sound from another room. It does not require your attention. Your body is settling. Your system is adjusting. And you are free to drift exactly as you are. Thoughts may still appear, and that's all right. They no longer need to organize themselves. They don't need to make sense. They can arrive without direction and leave without conclusion. The mind has a natural way of loosening its grip when it realizes nothing is required of it. Ideas become incomplete. Images blur at the edges. Time stretches and folds in on itself. This is not something you create. It happens on its own, the way daylight fades without being told to. You may notice moments where you are not quite thinking, but not fully asleep either. A space where awareness softens, where thoughts feel distant, like echoes rather than statements. This space does not need to be held. It cannot be forced. It appears briefly, disappears, and returns again. There is no need to follow it. If a memory surfaces, it does not need analysis. If a worry floats through, it does not need resolution. They are passing signals, not instructions. Your mind is learning that it does not have to stay linear right now. It can wander. It can fragment. It can pause mid-thought without finishing the sentence. This drifting is not a loss of control. It is the beginning of rest. As the edges of thinking soften, the sense of time may begin to change. Minutes no longer feel distinct. Moments blur together. You don't need to track how long you've been here. Timekeeping belongs to the waking mind. It can set that role aside. Your awareness may feel as if it is gently floating, not moving anywhere, not anchored This is a familiar threshold your mind crosses every night. The place where effort dissolves and attention loosens. There is nothing fragile about this state. You do not need to protect it. It will deepen on its own when you stop noticing it. If you catch yourself trying to observe the drifting, that's okay. Observation fades too. Your mind is allowed to become less interested in staying clear, less interested in being sharp, less interested in staying awake. There is no benefit to staying alert here, and your system is beginning to recognize that. You may notice a slight sense of detachment from your body, as if sensation becomes quieter, more distant, or sensation may feel amplified for a moment before fading again. Both are natural. Your awareness no longer needs to sit at the surface. It can sink beneath the noise of the day. This is where thoughts lose their urgency, where unfinished mental loops gently dissolve without closure. Nothing needs to be completed tonight. The mind has spent so much time scanning for meaning, outcomes, and next steps. Now, it is being given permission to rest from that task. And when the mind rests, it does not go blank. It becomes spacious. In this space, words may lose structure. Sentences may dissolve before they end. Images may appear and fade without context. You are not meant to follow any of it. If you drift into brief moments where you are not sure whether you were awake or asleep, that is exactly right. That uncertainty is the doorway. You do not need to stay on one side. Your subconscious operates easily here. It does not require clarity or focus. It responds to openness, and openness grows naturally when effort fades. You may feel yourself slipping in and out of awareness now. That gentle ebb and flow is welcome. You do not need to anchor yourself. There is nowhere to fall, nothing to miss. The world outside continues on its own. It does not need your supervision. Sounds can blend into the background, losing their meaning. Your mind no longer needs to label them. As this section continues, thinking becomes optional. Awareness softens further, and the transition into deeper rest becomes less noticeable. You are not trying to sleep. You are simply no longer trying to stay awake. And that is enough. You can let the drifting continue. Let thoughts thin out. Let time dissolve. Your subconscious recognizes this space. It knows what to do here. You are safe to fade, safe to float, safe to rest in the quiet place where nothing needs to happen and nothing is expected of you. Even as your conscious awareness drifts, something else is gently present. Quiet, attentive. This is the part of you that does not sleep the way the mind does. It listens without effort. It receives without judgment. It does not need instructions to know what is relevant. Your subconscious is awake in a different way. It does not require focus or intention. It does not wait for clarity. It responds most naturally when the surface mind has softened its grip. That is why nothing is being asked of you right now. You do not need to believe anything. You do not need to imagine vividly. You do not need to repeat words or form pictures. Your subconscious understands tone, rhythm, absence of pressure. It recognizes safety not through logic, but through atmosphere. As you rest here, your subconscious begins to engage simply because the environment allows it, not because you summoned it, not because you tried. This is how it has always worked when the conscious mind steps aside. Even briefly, the deeper systems come forward on their own. They listen broadly. They absorb patterns. They update quietly. Nothing dramatic announces this shift. There is no sudden moment where you feel something click. It happens beneath awareness, the same way your body heals without notifying you. You may not notice anything changing at all, and that is often the clearest sign that something is. Your subconscious does not work through force. It works through repetition, familiarity, and emotional neutrality. And neutrality is growing here. There is no urgency in this space, no countdown, no promise that something must happen tonight. This lack of pressure is precisely what allows change to occur. Your subconscious is not being commanded. It is being invited. And invitations do not require response on demand. They remain open. As you continue resting, the subconscious begins to take note of what is absent. No threat, no demand, no evaluation. This absence is information. It signals that it can update without needing to protect you, that it can reorganize without staying defensive. The subconscious listens most clearly when it no longer needs to stay on guard. You are not giving it tasks. You are giving it space. Space to soften old assumptions, space to release patterns that were only held in place by constant vigilance. Nothing is being overwritten forcefully. Nothing is being erased abruptly. Change here is subtle, gradual, integrated. It does not disrupt your sense of self. It refines it. Even now, as words continue in the background, your subconscious is sorting what matters from what does not. Without effort, without your involvement, you do not need to hold onto any sentence. You do not need to remember what was said. The subconscious does not work through memory the way the mind does. It works through exposure, gentle exposure to calm, to steadiness, to non-resistance. And that exposure is happening naturally. If your awareness drifts away completely for a moment, nothing is lost. If it returns briefly, nothing is interrupted. The subconscious remains present regardless. It does not leave when you fall asleep. In many ways, that is when it becomes most receptive. This is why rest is powerful, not because you are trying to change, but because you are no longer trying to prevent change. You are not surrendering control. You are simply not gripping it. There is a difference, and your system feels that difference. The subconscious responds not to words alone, but to the experience surrounding them. The experience of being safe, of being unobserved, of being allowed to pause. That experience is unfolding now. Nothing needs to be done with it. You can continue drifting. Let awareness thin. Let attention soften. Your subconscious is already listening, not because you asked it to, but because it recognizes this quiet space as its own. Some patterns no longer need to stay active. They were useful once, protective, adaptive, but usefulness has an expiration when the conditions that created it are no longer present. Your subconscious understands this distinction. It does not cling to old scripts out of loyalty. It holds them only as long as they seem necessary, and necessity fades when safety becomes consistent. As you rest here, old mental repetitions begin to lose energy, not because they are challenged, but because they are no longer reinforced. Thoughts that once looped automatically now pass with less weight. Stories that once felt urgent begin to feel distant. Definitions of yourself that required effort start to loosen. Nothing is being confronted. Nothing is being forced to disappear. They simply fade from lack of attention. The subconscious does not argue with old beliefs. It replaces them by quiet omission. When a pattern is no longer fed, it softens. When it is not needed, it dissolves. You do not have to identify which scripts are releasing. You do not need to name them. The subconscious already knows which ones are outdated. Some scripts were formed in moments of uncertainty, others in moments of pressure. Some were learned from repetition rather than truth. They were never permanent. As the environment becomes calmer, the subconscious updates its internal map. It notices that the threats those scripts were designed to manage are no longer present, and without threat, the script has no role. This release does not feel dramatic. It feels neutral, almost unnoticeable. You may sense a lightness or a subtle emptiness where something used to run automatically. That space does not need to be filled. The subconscious prefers open space to rigid structure. In space, it can reorganize freely. Old definitions like "this is just how I am" lose authority here. They are recognized as habits, not truths. Habits can change without effort when the conditions shift. You are not replacing one script with another right now. You are allowing the system to pause between versions. This pause is powerful. In the absence of old narratives, the subconscious begins to recalibrate toward balance, toward ease, toward responses that require less energy. Nothing new is being installed yet. Nothing needs to be. Release comes first. As this happens, you may feel less attached to certain thoughts, less compelled to follow familiar mental paths, less reactive to inner commentary. This does not mean those thoughts are gone forever. It means they are no longer prioritized. The subconscious does not delete aggressively. It archives quietly. What is no longer useful is placed in the background, where it no longer runs the system. You do not need to monitor this process. Monitoring belongs to the conscious mind. The subconscious works best when unobserved. Even if your mind briefly engages with an old pattern, it passes through differently now, with less grip, less emotional charge. That change is subtle, but it matters. This is how deep change often begins, not with new affirmations, not with declarations, but with the quiet release of what no longer needs to repeat. As you continue resting, the subconscious continues sorting, keeping what supports stability, letting go of what requires strain. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is incomplete. You are not losing parts of yourself. You are shedding outdated instructions, and what remains is simpler, quieter, more adaptable. You can let this process continue without awareness. It does not require participation. The voice can fade further into the background. Thoughts can thin out. Rest can deepen. Old scripts are already loosening, not because you told them to, but because they no longer belong in the environment your system now recognizes as safe. There is a space beneath thought that is beginning to open, not empty in a way that feels lacking, but open in a way that feels neutral, unoccupied, still. This is not silence you have to create. It arrives naturally when effort withdraws. In this space, nothing is being evaluated, nothing is being compared, nothing is being judged as right or wrong. It is simply a pause. Your subconscious recognizes this pause as a reset point, a moment where the system can return to baseline without interruption. Baseline does not mean nothingness. It means balance. As the noise of old patterns fades, the system does not rush to replace them. It allows stillness first. Stillness is information. It tells the subconscious that there is no immediate demand, no need to react, no need to prepare, and in that absence of demand, recalibration begins. You may notice that thoughts feel farther away now, as if they occur in another room. You might hear them, but they no longer pull you in, or there may be long stretches where nothing distinct appears at all. No images, no words, just a sense of floating awareness. Both are signs that the reset is underway. This reset is not erasing who you are. It is returning you to a quieter version of yourself that existed before constant input, before pressure, before overcorrection, before the need to manage everything internally. Your nervous system recognizes this state from deep rest, from moments of safety, from times when nothing was expected. In this state, signals slow down, responses become softer, internal tension has less reason to stay active. Nothing is switching off. Nothing is shutting down. Things are simply returning to their natural pace. If awareness flickers in and out, that is part of the reset. The mind does not need to stay online for recalibration to occur. In fact, it works better when the mind steps back. The subconscious is not trying to solve problems here. It is restoring balance. It adjusts quietly, without commentary, without announcing progress. This is why you do not need to notice anything happening. Change at this level feels like nothing at all. And that is exactly how it integrates. As this neutral space holds, the body continues to rest. The breath continues on its own. The heart maintains its rhythm. Everything essential continues without attention. You do not need to intervene. You may feel as though you are hovering between states, not fully awake, not fully asleep. This in-between is where reset becomes possible. There is no reason to move in either direction. You do not need to decide. The system knows how to settle when it is not being directed. Old urgency dissolves here, not replaced by excitement, but by calm neutrality. Nothing is being pushed forward. Nothing is being held back. Just balance returning. As the reset deepens, you may feel a sense of internal quiet that is unfamiliar. That quiet does not require interpretation. It is not emptiness. It is readiness. Readiness without pressure. You are not waiting for something to happen. You are resting in the space where things reorganize naturally. This is not a pause between actions. It is a return to center. You can let this continue. Let the quiet hold. Let awareness drift further if it wants to. The reset does not need completion. It does not have an endpoint. It unfolds gently beneath awareness and continues even after sleep takes you fully. Nothing more is required. The quiet reset has begun, and it will continue at its own pace, without effort, without observation, exactly as it should. There is a gentle loosening happening now. Not something breaking apart, not something being removed, just a soft release around the idea of who you have been holding yourself to be. Identity does not disappear here. It relaxes. The roles you carry every day do not need to be maintained in this space. You do not need to be consistent. You do not need to be coherent. You do not need to match yesterday. The subconscious understands identity as something flexible, responsive, contextual. When the environment changes, identity adjusts naturally. Right now, the environment is quiet, unthreatening, unobserved, and in this environment, the identity no longer needs to stay rigid. Labels soften, descriptions loosen, definitions blur at the edges. You are not becoming someone else. You are simply not reinforcing who you thought you had to be. This is not confusion. It is rest. The subconscious does not cling to fixed identities when safety is present. It allows the sense of self to become lighter, less defended, less shaped by past reactions. You may notice that certain self-descriptions no longer feel important. Not wrong, just irrelevant. There is no need to correct them, no need to replace them with better ones. They can float away on their own. The mind often holds identity tightly because it believes consistency equals safety. But safety can exist without effort, and your system is learning that now. As identity softens, there is more room for neutrality, for openness, for response rather than reaction. You may feel less attached to outcomes, less compelled to prove or maintain anything internally. This is not loss. This is freedom from maintenance. The subconscious prefers identities that do not require constant reinforcement. It favors states that feel stable without effort. And as you rest here, the identity shifts toward that stability naturally. You do not need to imagine a new version of yourself. You do not need to visualize improvement. Visualization is not required when pressure is gone. Change integrates best when it is not being watched. As the sense of me becomes quieter, there is a subtle expansion, not outward, inward, more space between thoughts, more distance between reaction and response. This space allows the system to choose differently later without needing to rehearse those choices now. You are not rehearsing a future self. You are allowing the old tightness around self to dissolve. That is enough. If at any point your mind tries to grasp an identity again, that is fine. Grasping loosens too. Nothing here needs to be sustained consciously. The subconscious recognizes that identity does not need to be fixed to function. It can remain fluid and still feel safe. Fluid systems adapt more easily. They recover faster. They resist less. This softening does not make you less grounded. It makes you less brittle. As you continue resting, the sense of self becomes quieter, less verbal, less conceptual, more felt, more embodied. And when identity rests, the system as a whole rests with it. You do not need to hold onto any sense of who you are right now. You can let it blur, let it fade, let it rest. Nothing essential is lost. What remains underneath is simpler, more stable, less reactive. You can drift further now. Let the voice recede. Let the boundaries soften. Identity does not need to stay awake. And as it rests, your system continues to reorganize quietly, without effort, without direction, without needing you to be anyone at all. The past no longer needs to stay close right now. It does not need to be reviewed. It does not need to be resolved. Memories can loosen their hold without being revisited. Your subconscious knows how to release emotional weight without replaying events. It does not need the story again to let the feeling fade. As you rest here, experiences that once carried intensity begin to neutralize. Not erased, not denied, simply no longer charged. This is not forgetting. It is unbinding. The emotional tone attached to certain memories softens when safety becomes consistent, and safety is present now. You do not need to recall anything specific. You do not need to search your past. The subconscious releases what is ready automatically. Some memories were stored with heightened alert because they were learned under stress. Others were reinforced through repetition rather than relevance. Those conditions are no longer active, and without those conditions, the memory no longer needs to stay vivid. You may notice a feeling of distance from things that once felt close, as if they belong to another version of you. This distance is not detachment. It is perspective. The subconscious understands when something no longer needs to inform the present. It does not argue with the past. It simply updates the importance assigned to it. As importance fades, so does emotional intensity. You are not being asked to forgive. You are not being asked to reframe. You are not being asked to make meaning. Release happens here without narrative. Old emotional loops loosen because they are no longer useful for protection. Protection is not needed in this space. As you rest, the body may respond before the mind does. A deepening of relaxation, a soft exhale, a subtle release somewhere you did not know was holding. These responses are signs of emotional unloading. Nothing needs to be processed consciously. The subconscious does not need your approval to let go. Even if your mind briefly touches an old memory, it passes differently now, with less urgency, less pull. That change matters. It signals that the memory is no longer directing the system. You are not removing history. You are removing its authority over the present. And this happens gently. No emotional spikes, no dramatic releases, just a quiet return to neutrality. The past does not need to be healed tonight. It does not need to be integrated. It simply needs to rest, and rest allows recalibration. As emotional charge fades, there is more room for calm, more space for the present to exist without interference. The subconscious prefers the present when the past is no longer loud, and that preference is shifting now. You may feel a sense of lightness or emptiness where something used to linger. That space does not need to be filled. It is not a void, it is relief. You are not leaving anything unfinished. You are allowing the system to stop revisiting what no longer serves it. This release continues even as you drift deeper. Even if awareness fades completely, nothing is interrupted by sleep. In fact, sleep supports this process. You do not need to witness the release for it to occur. Your role is only to rest. The past can step back now. It no longer needs to stay on duty. And as it does, your system becomes quieter, lighter, more available to the present moment. Without effort, without analysis, without carrying what is already complete, there is a tone beneath your thoughts that is beginning to shift. Not the words themselves, but the way they land. The inner voice does not disappear here. It softens. It no longer needs to correct, predict, or prepare. It no longer needs to stay sharp to keep you safe. As the environment remains calm, the subconscious adjusts the volume and character of inner commentary. It becomes quieter, kinder, less reactive. This is not positive thinking. Nothing is being rewritten deliberately. The change happens because the system no longer feels threatened by silence. When vigilance fades, the inner voice loses its edge. There is no reason to push or warn. You may notice thoughts becoming less absolute, less urgent, more tentative. Or you may notice long spaces where nothing speaks at all. Both indicate the same shift. The inner voice learns from repetition, and it is learning now that calm does not lead to harm. In this space, the tone of self-talk naturally adjusts toward neutrality. Neutral does not mean dull. It means balanced. There is less judgment in neutrality, less pressure to improve, less impulse to narrate every experience. You are not correcting the voice. you are changing the conditions it responds to. And conditions shape tone more effectively than effort ever could. As you rest, the inner voice becomes more like background sound, present but not directing. It does not need to dominate awareness. This is not suppression. It is reallocation of attention. The subconscious recognizes that constant commentary is not necessary for survival. And when it realizes that, it relaxes its grip. You may notice that even when a critical thought arises, it does not stick. It passes without echo, without elaboration. That is not something you are doing. It is the system updating its defaults. The inner voice does not need to be silenced to be changed. It needs to feel safe enough to stop shouting, and safety is consistent here. No one is listening for mistakes. No outcome depends on performance. In the absence of scrutiny, the voice softens on its own. You may sense a gentler internal atmosphere, less tension behind thoughts, less emotional charge attached to them. This allows space for quiet presence without commentary. This state is familiar from moments of deep rest, flow, or absorption. Times when thinking took a back seat without disappearing. That familiarity is returning. The inner voice is learning that it can rest too. You are not losing your ability to think or evaluate. You are simply not using it right now. Tools can rest when they are not needed. As you drift further, the voice may fade entirely for periods of time, or it may return briefly, softer than before. There is no right pattern. Each moment of calm teaches the system that kindness is a stable setting, and stability invites gentleness. You do not need to instruct the voice to be kind. You are allowing it to discover that kindness is safe. This learning does not require awareness. It integrates quietly. As this section continues, you can let words blur. Let meaning dissolve. Let tone settle. The voice does not need to narrate your rest, and as it quiets, your system moves deeper into balance, where support replaces pressure, and ease becomes the default way of being. There is nothing you need to see yet, nothing you need to verify, nothing you need to check for. Progress does not announce itself at this level. The subconscious does not respond to proof the way the conscious mind does. It responds to consistency, to atmosphere, to the absence of urgency. As you rest here, something important is being learned. That change does not require monitoring. You do not need signs. You do not need reassurance that something is happening. The system adjusts most effectively when it is not being observed. This is why trust forms quietly. Not trust in an outcome, but trust in the process itself. The subconscious does not rush. It does not chase results. It moves according to readiness. And readiness grows when pressure dissolves. You may notice that the part of you that usually checks thoughts, checks feelings, checks progress, is less active now. That part can rest. Nothing falls apart when it rests. In fact, integration happens more smoothly without it. There is no benefit to trying to measure change in this space. measurement pulls the system back into vigilance. And vigilance is no longer required. You are not being asked to believe that everything is working out. You are being allowed to stop asking whether it is. That difference matters. When the mind stops checking, the body and subconscious continue adjusting uninterrupted. Change becomes less visible, but more stable. You may notice that anticipation fades, expectation softens, the urge to look ahead dissolves. This is not indifference. It is calm expectancy without attachment. The subconscious prefers this state. It updates more effectively when it is not under observation. This is why deep change often surprises the conscious mind later. It happens quietly first. Right now, you are not waiting for anything. You are resting in a state where outcomes are not demanded. And in that state, the system reorganizes freely. Trust does not need to be affirmed. It grows naturally when nothing goes wrong in stillness. Each moment you rest without checking builds that trust automatically. No affirmations are required. You do not need to tell yourself things are improving. Improvement does not require narration. You may notice a subtle sense of patience emerging, not forced, not cultivated, just present. This patience is not about time. It is about the absence of urgency. When urgency fades, the system stops bracing for disappointment. And without bracing, it becomes more receptive. Your subconscious does not need deadlines. It does not need timelines. It needs permission to proceed at its own pace. That permission is present now. Even if awareness drifts completely, the process continues. Nothing is paused by sleep. Nothing resets when you lose consciousness. In fact, the less you monitor, the more smoothly it unfolds. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing a window. There is no moment you are supposed to catch. Change is not something you have to witness. It integrates best when it arrives unnoticed. As this section continues, the impulse to check dissolves further. The need for certainty softens. The system settles into quiet confidence. Confidence without effort, without declarations, without proof. You can let go of watching now. Let the voice fade. Let awareness drift. Your subconscious knows how to continue without supervision, without pressure, without needing you to see it happening. Desire does not need to lean forward anymore. It does not need to reach. It does not need to pull the future closer. In this space, wanting softens into allowing. The subconscious understands desire as direction, not effort. And direction remains even when effort fades. You are not losing what you care about by resting. You are removing the strain around it. Strain signals urgency. Urgency signals lack. And lack keeps the system on edge. As urgency dissolves, desire becomes quieter, less charged, more spacious. This does not weaken it. It stabilizes it. The system no longer treats what you want as something missing. It begins to treat it as something expected. Expectation without pressure feels neutral, almost invisible. That neutrality is powerful. You are not practicing detachment. You are simply no longer gripping. When the grip releases, the nervous system relaxes. And when the nervous system relaxes, the subconscious becomes more receptive. Receiving does not require effort. It requires safety. And safety is present now. You may notice that certain wants no longer feel heavy. They no longer create tension in the body. They no longer demand attention. That is not loss of desire. It is loss of resistance. The subconscious does not chase outcomes. It aligns behavior, perception, and response quietly over time. That alignment happens best when desire is not being constantly activated. You are not pushing anything away. You are not forcing indifference. You are resting in a state where the future does not need to be pulled forward. Time can move at its own pace. In this state, desire becomes less emotional and more structural. It informs direction without stirring agitation. This is why things often arrive when you stop watching for them. Not because you stopped wanting, but because the system stopped signaling need. Need creates tension. Tension narrows perception. Relaxation broadens it. As relaxation deepens, the subconscious notices opportunities more easily, responds more fluidly, adjusts without resistance. This happens later in waking life without conscious effort. Right now, nothing needs to be done. Desire does not need rehearsal. It does not need affirmation. It does not need visualization. Those tools are useful when the system feels unsafe, but safety changes the equation. Here, desire can rest. It can sit quietly in the background, like a compass, rather than a pull. You may notice a sense of contentment emerging. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is lacking in this moment. Contentment does not cancel desire. It removes desperation, and without desperation, the system responds differently to life. This shift does not feel dramatic. It feels calm. The subconscious prefers calm. It integrates changes more smoothly from this state. As this section continues, you can let go of holding onto outcomes. They do not need to be kept alive in awareness. You are not abandoning them. You are trusting them to unfold without supervision. That trust does not need to be declared. It settles in quietly, the same way rest settles into the body. Let desire soften. Let allowing expand. Nothing is being delayed. Everything continues moving, just without strain, without pulling, without needing you to hold it in place. There is a quiet coordination happening beneath awareness now. Not something you are directing, not something you need to understand. When effort steps back, alignment steps forward. Alignment does not announce itself. It does not require attention. It operates in the background, adjusting small things gently. Your subconscious is very good at this. It notices patterns. It recognizes openings. It adjusts responses without explanation. And it does this best when it is not being rushed. As you rest here, the system is no longer trying to force things into place. It is allowing them to settle naturally. This is not passivity. It is efficiency. The subconscious does not work by pushing. It works by removing friction. Friction comes from overthinking, overcorrecting, and bracing against outcomes. As those habits fade, the system becomes more fluid. You may notice a subtle sense of ease, as if things no longer need to be managed internally. That ease is not laziness. It is trust in the system's ability to respond. When alignment is present, effort is redistributed. Energy moves where it is needed without conscious direction. This is why things can feel like they are arranging themselves. Not magically, but organically. Your role right now is not to participate. It is to rest while the recalibration continues. Nothing here depends on visualization or intention. The subconscious does not require detailed instructions. It requires space. Space to notice what fits and what does not. As you rest, outdated responses lose priority. New, more efficient ones take their place quietly. This does not happen all at once. It happens incrementally. Small adjustments accumulate. You may not feel aligned. You do not need to. Alignment is not a feeling. It is a pattern, and patterns change below awareness first. As this section continues, the system continues refining itself. You do not need to guide it. If awareness drifts away, alignment continues. If sleep deepens, alignment continues. Nothing pauses when you are not watching. There is no need to get ready for anything. No preparation required. Life responds to internal states, not conscious plans, and your internal state is settling into coherence. Coherence does not feel exciting. It feels calm. It feels ordinary. That ordinariness is stability. The subconscious prefers stability over intensity. From stability, it makes better choices automatically. Later, in waking life, you may notice things feel simpler. Decisions require less effort. Responses feel more natural. That is alignment expressing itself. You do not need to anticipate those changes. Anticipation pulls you back into monitoring, and monitoring is no longer required. As this section plays, you can let the idea of doing it right dissolve. There is no right way to rest. The system already knows what to adjust. You are not missing an opportunity by sleeping. You are creating the conditions for alignment to deepen. Nothing is being forced. Nothing is being held together artificially. Everything is settling into place at its own pace. You can drift further now. Let awareness soften completely if it wants to. Alignment does not need you awake. It continues quietly, beneath thought, beneath effort, doing exactly what it does best, bringing things into balance without needing your involvement. Your nervous system is learning something new now, not through explanation, not through instruction, through experience. It is learning that expansion does not require alarm, that progress does not require pressure, that success does not mean exposure or risk. For a long time, your system may have associated forward movement with stress, with responsibility, with the need to stay alert. That association kept it guarded, but here, in this quiet state, a different association is forming. Ease is present, and nothing is going wrong. That information matters. The nervous system updates itself through lived states, not ideas. And it is experiencing calm alongside forward readiness. This is how it relearns safety. Success no longer needs to feel activating. It no longer needs to trigger vigilance. It no longer needs to demand readiness before it arrives. Your system begins to understand that growth can feel neutral, even gentle. That understanding removes internal resistance. You are not preparing for anything right now. You are not rehearsing confidence. You are allowing your nervous system to experience stability without threat, and that experience becomes the new reference point. When the system no longer expects overwhelm, it stops bracing. When it stops bracing, energy becomes available. Not energy for pushing, energy for responding. This shift is subtle. It may not feel like confidence. It feels like steadiness. Steadiness is more durable than motivation. As this learning integrates, the body no longer tightens at the idea of things going well. It no longer contracts at the thought of opportunity. Opportunity stops feeling like something that requires performance. It becomes something that can be met calmly. The nervous system does not need to be excited to engage. It only needs to feel safe. And safety is being reinforced now. There is no spike of adrenaline here. No surge, just quiet recalibration. This is important because when success no longer feels threatening, it stops being avoided unconsciously. You are not convincing yourself of anything. You are not affirming worthiness. Your system is simply learning through repetition that calm and forward movement can coexist. That learning does not require awareness. Even if your mind drifts completely, the nervous system continues updating. It learns through states, not thoughts. And this state is teaching it something valuable. As this section continues, you may feel a deeper sense of neutrality, less anticipation, less resistance. That neutrality allows the system to remain open. You are not practicing confidence. You are removing the conditions that made confidence feel unsafe. Later, when life offers opportunities, your response will feel different. Not forced, not rehearsed, just available. You do not need to visualize that future now. It is enough that your system is learning. It does not need to protect you from good things. Protection can stand down, and when it does, progress feels lighter. You can continue drifting. Let awareness soften further. The nervous system continues learning quietly that ease is allowed, that movement does not require tension, and that stability can support everything that comes next. Change no longer needs to announce itself as unfamiliar. It no longer needs to feel like a disruption. It no longer needs to trigger hesitation. As your system settles, the idea of change begins to feel quieter, less dramatic, less charged. This happens naturally when safety becomes consistent. The subconscious does not resist change itself. It resists sudden shifts that feel unprotected. When protection is present, change feels ordinary, and right now, protection is not something you are creating. It is something your system is experiencing. You are not bracing. You are not preparing. You are resting, and in that rest, fear loses relevance. Fear is a response to uncertainty combined with pressure. Pressure has already softened, and uncertainty no longer feels threatening here. Without pressure, the unknown becomes neutral. You are not trying to accept change. You are simply not reacting to it. That distinction matters. The subconscious learns through repeated exposure to calm, and calm is present now. It begins to associate change with stability rather than risk, with continuity rather than loss. This association reshapes future responses. You may notice that imagined future scenarios feel less activating. They no longer demand emotional rehearsal. They no longer pull attention forward. This is not avoidance. It is trust. Trust that the system can respond when needed, not before. Fear dissolves when preparation is no longer required in advance. And that is what is happening here. The system is learning. It does not need to anticipate every possibility. It can meet change as it arrives. This learning is quiet, almost invisible. It does not feel like courage. It feels like neutrality. Neutrality is powerful because it leaves room to move. Fear narrows options. Calm expands them. As this section continues, the future feels less distant. Not closer, just less separate. Change becomes familiar before it arrives, not through visualization, but through nervous system readiness. Readiness without tension. You are not telling yourself that change is safe. Your system is discovering it. Discovery lasts longer than belief. You do not need to convince yourself of anything. The body is already learning. Even if thoughts about change appear, they pass without escalation. They do not spiral. They do not demand response. That is not suppression. That is regulation. As you continue to rest, something steady and quiet is forming within you now. There is a sense of strength that does not need to announce itself. It does not rush. It does not react. It simply exists, calm and rooted, like a deep foundation beneath everything else. Your body already understands this feeling. Your subconscious recognizes it as stability, as safety, as something you can return to at any moment without effort. While you sleep, your inner world is becoming more balanced. Emotional waves that once felt overwhelming now soften more quickly. Thoughts that used to spiral lose their urgency. You are learning at a subconscious level how to remain centered even when life moves around you. This is not about becoming numb or distant. It is about becoming grounded, present, secure within yourself. Each slow breath reinforces this inner stability. Your nervous system is settling into a rhythm that feels familiar and supportive. There is no need to scan for problems, no need to stay alert. Your subconscious understands that you are safe enough now to rest deeply, while it does the work of strengthening you from the inside out. Old patterns of emotional reactivity are gently loosening. Situations that once triggered tension no longer carry the same charge. Your subconscious is learning new responses, calmer ones, more measured ones, responses rooted in confidence rather than fear. This shift happens naturally, without force, because your system prefers balance. It prefers ease. It prefers strength that feels quiet and sustainable. As you remain asleep, your sense of self becomes more anchored. You feel less pulled by external opinions, less shaken by uncertainty. There is a growing ability to pause internally before responding. In that pause, clarity emerges, choice emerges, peace emerges. This is resilience forming, not the kind that hardens you, but the kind that supports you gently and consistently. Your subconscious is integrating the understanding that challenges do not require urgency. They do not require tension. They can be met with calm awareness and steady presence. You are capable of handling what arises, not because you are pushing yourself, but because you are grounded within yourself. Notice how your body feels heavier, more settled, more at rest. This heaviness is supportive. It anchors you deeper into sleep while reinforcing emotional steadiness. Your muscles remain relaxed. Your breathing remains slow. Your mind drifts freely, knowing that everything important is being handled beneath the surface. Strength is no longer something you have to summon. It is becoming a default state, a quiet assurance that stays with you whether things are easy or uncertain. Your subconscious is practicing this state now, rehearsing it gently so that it feels natural when you are awake. You do not need to control outcomes to feel secure. You do not need to anticipate every possibility. Your inner stability comes from within, and it remains accessible at all times. Even now, as you sleep, it is being reinforced, layer by layer, breath by breath. There is a sense of emotional spaciousness forming, room to feel without being overwhelmed, room to think without pressure, room to move through life without constant inner friction. This spaciousness allows you to respond rather than react, to choose rather than resist. Your subconscious recognizes that calm is a form of strength. Stillness is a form of clarity. Patience is a form of power. These qualities are settling into you now, becoming familiar, becoming easy. As the night continues, this inner stability deepens. It becomes woven into how you process experiences, how you relate to others, how you relate to yourself. By morning, you may not consciously notice a dramatic change, but you will feel steadier, more grounded, less easily shaken, and as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to strengthen this foundation quietly, effortlessly, naturally, allowing you to rest fully, while resilience becomes part of who you are. As you remain deeply asleep, there is a gentle softening happening around the unknown. The mind no longer feels the need to grasp, to predict, to hold every answer in advance. Instead, there is a quiet acceptance forming, an understanding that not knowing everything right now is safe, comfortable even. Your subconscious is learning that uncertainty does not equal danger. It simply means space, possibility, room for something new to arrive. The unknown no longer feels like a gap that must be filled. It feels like an open horizon, and as you rest, your inner world becomes more at ease with that openness. There is no urgency here, no pressure to decide, no need to rush toward clarity. Your subconscious understands that clarity emerges naturally when the time is right. Breath by breath, a deeper trust settles in. Trust in timing, trust in life's unfolding, trust that you are guided even when the path ahead is not fully visible. This trust does not require proof. It does not demand reassurance. It exists quietly, like a steady current beneath the surface, carrying you forward without effort. Old habits of worry and anticipation begin to loosen. The part of you that once felt uneasy without control is learning something new now. It is learning that release brings relief, that surrender brings peace, that allowing the unknown to remain unknown is not weakness, it is wisdom. While you sleep, your subconscious practices meeting uncertainty with calm curiosity instead of fear. Questions no longer feel threatening. They feel gentle, neutral, even inviting. You are no longer bracing yourself for what might happen. You are resting into what is. There is a subtle shift in how your inner world responds to the future. Instead of imagining worst-case outcomes, your subconscious relaxes into a quiet assumption that whatever unfolds, you will meet it with steadiness. You do not need to rehearse problems to be prepared. You are already prepared by being present, grounded, and calm. The unknown becomes something you can coexist with peacefully. It does not pull at your nervous system. It does not demand attention. It simply exists alongside you, neutral and spacious. This creates a sense of inner freedom, a lightness that comes from not having to carry everything at once. Notice how your body remains relaxed as this understanding settles in. There is no tension required to trust, no effort required to let go. Your muscles stay soft, your breathing stays slow, your sleep remains deep and uninterrupted. Your subconscious absorbs this new relationship with uncertainty effortlessly. You are learning that life does not need to be controlled to be kind, that outcomes do not need to be forced to be favorable, that answers arrive when there is space for them. And space is exactly what you are creating now. As the night continues, your subconscious releases the belief that safety depends on certainty. Instead, safety becomes something internal, something stable, something that stays with you regardless of external conditions. This internal safety allows you to move forward without fear of the unseen. There is comfort now in not having everything figured out, a quiet peace in knowing that you can rest, even while things are still unfolding. Your subconscious understands that rest itself invites solutions. Calm itself attracts clarity. You do not need to rush toward the future. You are allowed to arrive there gently, at your own pace, with trust rather than tension. This understanding sinks deeper with every moment of sleep. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to soften its relationship with the unknown, replacing resistance with ease, fear with openness, and control with trust, allowing life to unfold naturally, one calm moment at a time. As you continue sleeping, something subtle and powerful begins to rise within you. Not loudly, not suddenly. It emerges quietly, like a steady warmth spreading through your chest. This is confidence, forming without effort. Confidence that does not depend on approval, outcomes, or external validation. It exists simply because you exist. Your subconscious is learning a new way of being with yourself. There is no need to prove anything, no need to compare, no need to perform. You are becoming comfortable in your own presence, and that comfort naturally creates confidence. A calm certainty that you are enough, exactly as you are in this moment. While your body rests, your inner dialogue softens. Thoughts become kinder, assumptions become gentler. The subconscious begins to treat you as someone worthy of patience and respect. This inner shift changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you move through the world without you needing to consciously try. Confidence no longer feels like something you have to summon in difficult moments. It is becoming a baseline, a quiet knowing that you can handle what arises, that you can speak when needed, that you can remain silent when that feels right. There is ease in this balance. Your nervous system recognizes this state as safe. Calm confidence does not activate tension. It does not tighten the body or sharpen the breath. Instead, it relaxes you further. Shoulders soften, jaw releases, breath deepens. Confidence feels like comfort now, not pressure. Old self-doubt patterns gently lose their grip. The need to question yourself repeatedly fades into the background. You do not need to replay conversations or anticipate judgments. Your subconscious understands that you are allowed to take up space simply by being present. There is a sense of inner alignment forming. Thoughts, emotions, and actions begin to feel more synchronized. When you choose something, it feels natural. When you say no, it feels clear. When you say yes, it feels grounded. This alignment strengthens your confidence quietly from the inside out. You are learning to trust your own signals. Intuition becomes easier to hear. Decisions feel less heavy. Even uncertainty does not shake your sense of self. You remain steady, knowing that confidence does not require having all the answers, only the willingness to move forward calmly. As you sleep, your subconscious rehearses this new identity gently, a version of you who feels secure in your choices, a version of you who does not rush or hesitate excessively, a version of you who allows life to meet you halfway. Confidence settles into your posture, your tone, your energy. Others may feel it without you saying a word, not as dominance, not as force, but as a grounded presence that feels reassuring and steady. There is relief in this state, relief from self-monitoring, relief from inner criticism, relief from the need to constantly adjust yourself to fit expectations. Your subconscious recognizes that true confidence comes from acceptance, not perfection. Notice how deeply at ease you feel as this understanding integrates. Your body remains heavy and supported. Your sleep remains uninterrupted. Your subconscious continues this work smoothly, without effort, without strain. You are becoming comfortable being seen, without needing to control how you are perceived. Comfortable being heard, without needing to over-explain. Comfortable being still, without feeling left behind. This calm confidence does not fade when circumstances change. It stays with you. It anchors you. It becomes part of how you experience yourself and the world. And as the night continues, your subconscious strengthens this natural confidence quietly and consistently, allowing it to integrate fully, so that when you wake, you carry it with you effortlessly as a steady, calm presence that supports you throughout your day. As you rest deeply now, there is a gentle unwinding happening around the need to control. The mind no longer grips so tightly. The body no longer braces. Your subconscious is learning that it does not need to manage every detail to feel safe. Control begins to soften, not because anything is wrong, but because it is no longer necessary. You are allowed to let things unfold without supervision. You are allowed to trust the natural intelligence of life while you sleep. This understanding settles in quietly, like a deep exhale you didn't realize you were holding. There is relief here, a sense of spaciousness, a calm permission to stop trying so hard. The part of you that once believed control meant protection is being gently reassured. It is learning that release brings ease, that loosening your grip does not invite chaos, it invites balance. Your subconscious recognizes that when you step back, life steps forward. Breath remains slow and steady as this shift continues. Muscles soften further. The nervous system moves into a deeper state of rest. There is nothing to manage right now, nothing to fix, nothing to anticipate. Everything that needs attention will meet you at the right time. Old patterns of micromanaging outcomes begin to dissolve. You no longer need to replay conversations, plan every scenario, or predict reactions. Your subconscious understands that clarity arrives when there is space for it, and space is exactly what you are creating now. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting the process, trusting your ability to respond when needed, trusting that you will know what to do when the moment arrives. This trust settles in gently, without force, becoming familiar and comforting. As you remain asleep, there is a growing sense of inner calm that comes from not needing to steer everything Life feels less heavy when you are not carrying it all at once. Your subconscious releases the belief that effort equals control, and control equals safety. Safety now comes from within. Notice how your body remains relaxed as this realization integrates. There is no tension required to let go, no vigilance required to trust. Your sleep remains deep and uninterrupted, allowing this new pattern to root itself naturally. You are learning that allowing does not mean being passive. It means being present. It means responding instead of forcing. Your subconscious begins to favor ease over strain, flow over resistance. There is comfort in knowing that you do not need to rush outcomes. You do not need to push doors open. What is meant for you aligns naturally when you stop gripping so tightly. This understanding feels soothing, reassuring, steady. As the night continues, your relationship with control transforms. What once felt necessary now feels optional. What once felt urgent now feels calm. You are free to move through life with more softness, more trust, more patience. You are supported even when you are not trying, guided even when you are not directing, held even when you are not holding on. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to practice this gentle release, allowing control to fade into trust, tension to melt into ease, and effort to transform into quiet confidence, so that when you wake, life feels lighter, more fluid, and easier to move through. As you remain deeply asleep, a quiet openness begins to form within you. It is an openness to support, to connection, to the idea that you do not have to do everything alone. Your subconscious is gently learning that life is not something you must face in isolation. Help exists, guidance exists, and you are allowed to receive it. There is a soft shift away from self-reliance that feels heavy or pressured. Instead, a balanced strength emerges, one that knows when to act independently and when to allow assistance. This balance feels natural, comforting, safe. Your inner world relaxes as it realizes that support does not diminish you. It strengthens you while you sleep. The subconscious loosens the belief that asking for help is a burden. It begins to understand that receiving support is part of how life flows. People, opportunities, and moments of clarity are allowed to arrive without resistance. You do not need to earn support by struggling first. You are worthy of it simply by being here. There is a growing sense of being accompanied, even in silence, a feeling that you are not moving through life alone, even when no one is physically present. This sense of unseen support brings calm to your nervous system. It reassures the part of you that once felt it had to carry everything alone. Your body remains relaxed as this understanding settles in. Shoulders soften, breath deepens, sleep stays uninterrupted. Your subconscious absorbs the idea that support can show up in many forms through people, timing, insight, or unexpected ease. You are learning to recognize guidance without forcing it. Ideas arrive gently. Clarity appears when needed. Synchronicities feel less surprising, and more familiar. Your subconscious becomes comfortable allowing things to line up without pushing. Receiving no longer feels risky. It feels safe, natural, deserved. You are allowed to accept kindness without suspicion, help without guilt, and ease without questioning it. This acceptance creates space for more support to enter your life effortlessly. As you sleep, your inner world practices this openness repeatedly. It becomes familiar with the sensation of being helped, guided, and supported. There is no urgency to identify where support comes from. It is enough to know that it exists. Old patterns of emotional self-sufficiency begin to soften. You no longer need to hold everything together alone. You are allowed to lean into rest, into trust, into connection. This leaning feels stabilizing, not weak. There is comfort now in knowing that you are seen, even when you are quiet, supported, even when you are still, guided, even when the path ahead is not fully visible. Your subconscious recognizes that life responds when you allow it to. This openness changes how you move through the world. You become more receptive, less guarded, more at ease with collaboration, assistance, and shared effort. Life feels less heavy when it is not carried alone. As the night continues, this sense of support integrates more deeply. It becomes part of how you relate to challenges and opportunities alike. You approach both with a quieter confidence, knowing that you are not unsupported, and as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to open gently to guidance and help, allowing support to flow toward you naturally, so that when you wake, you move through your day feeling accompanied, steadier, and quietly supported in ways you may not even need to name. As you continue resting in this deep, peaceful state, your mind and body begin to move into a gentle harmony. There is no effort required, no adjustment needed. Balance forms naturally when you are no longer resisting yourself. Your subconscious understands this, and it is quietly guiding everything back into alignment. Thoughts slow and soften, no longer pulling against your body. Emotions settle into a steady rhythm, no longer demanding immediate reaction. Physical sensations feel calmer, more even, more supportive. Mind and body begin to speak the same language again, one of ease, clarity, and quiet cooperation. While you sleep, your nervous system finds a rhythm that feels natural and sustainable. There is a sense of internal coordination, as if different parts of you are finally working together instead of competing for attention. This harmony feels reassuring, grounding, deeply restorative. Breath moves easily through your body, connecting everything gently. Each inhale brings calm. Each exhale releases excess tension. Your subconscious recognizes this state as optimal, safe, balanced, and supportive of healing and clarity. Old patterns of internal conflict begin to dissolve. The mind no longer pressures the body. The body no longer signals distress to be heard. Communication between them becomes smooth and respectful. You are learning, even while asleep, how to listen to yourself without urgency or judgment. There is a quiet intelligence within you that knows how to restore balance. It does not rush. It does not force. It simply allows what is out of sync to gradually realign. Your subconscious trusts this intelligence and allows it to guide the process effortlessly. You may notice a subtle feeling of wholeness forming, not perfection, just coherence, a sense that you are no longer fragmented or pulled in different directions internally. This coherence brings relief. It allows energy to move freely without being blocked by tension or resistance. As your body remains relaxed, it responds positively to this internal harmony. Muscles soften more deeply. The heart rhythm feels steady. The digestive system calms. Everything operates with less strain. Your sleep becomes more nourishing, more regenerative. The mind also benefits from this balance. Thoughts feel less intrusive. Mental clarity increases without effort. You are not trying to think clearly. It happens naturally when mind and body are aligned. Your subconscious is learning that balance does not require constant maintenance. It arises when you stop overriding your own signals. This understanding settles in gently, becoming part of how you relate to yourself going forward. There is comfort in knowing that you can return to this harmonious state easily. It is not fragile. It does not disappear when life becomes busy. It remains available beneath the surface, ready to support you whenever you slow down. As the night continues, this alignment deepens. It becomes more familiar, more accessible, more natural. By morning, you may notice a subtle difference, a sense of ease in your body, clarity in your mind, and calm in your emotional state. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to harmonize mind and body quietly, allowing balance to become your natural state, so that waking life feels smoother, steadier, and more comfortably aligned. As you rest peacefully now, your subconscious begins to explore possibility in the gentlest way. There is no effort here, no striving, no pressure to imagine anything clearly or vividly. Instead, there are soft impressions, subtle feelings, quiet familiarity, a sense of ease that suggests what is coming feels right. You do not need to picture scenes or outcomes in detail. Your subconscious works best when it is relaxed, open, and unforced. So it allows simple sensations to arise. A feeling of calm satisfaction, a sense of being in the right place at the right time, a gentle knowing that life is moving in a direction that supports you. While you sleep, these impressions drift through your awareness like faint echoes, never demanding attention. They do not pull you out of rest. They simply feel familiar, as if you have already lived them. This familiarity is powerful. It teaches your subconscious what feels natural to receive. There is no attachment to how things happen, no insistence on specific forms. The subconscious responds to feelings, not details. And the feelings that are forming now are calm, stable, and reassuring. They suggest a life that flows more easily, responds more kindly, and feels more supportive. As your body remains relaxed, these gentle impressions settle deeper. They blend seamlessly with your sense of self. There is no distinction between who you are now and who you are becoming. The transition feels smooth, continuous, effortless. You may notice a quiet sense of anticipation without excitement, a peaceful expectation without urgency. This is the state where change integrates most naturally. Nothing is being chased. Nothing is being forced. Everything is allowed to approach you in its own time. Your subconscious understands that gentle familiarity creates alignment. When something feels normal internally, it becomes easier to recognize and accept externally. This process happens quietly now, beneath the surface of sleep. There is comfort in this softness. You are not required to visualize perfectly or affirm constantly. Simply resting is enough. Your subconscious already knows what aligns with you, and it moves toward it naturally when given space. These impressions may come and go, or they may remain faint and steady. Either way is perfect. Your subconscious absorbs what it needs without effort. It selects what resonates and lets the rest pass. Notice how peaceful this feels. There is no tension in wanting, no pressure in expecting, just a calm openness to what is unfolding. Your body remains heavy, supported, deeply at rest. As the night continues, this gentle orientation toward what feels right becomes more familiar. It influences how you notice opportunities, how you respond to situations, how you make choices without conscious effort. You are learning to trust subtle signals rather than dramatic visions. Quiet alignment rather than forceful intention. This trust allows life to meet you with ease, and as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to weave these soft impressions into your sense of self, allowing what aligns with you to feel natural, familiar, and easy to receive, so that waking life gently reflects what has already been accepted within. As you rest deeply now, a profound sense of peace begins to settle into the background of your awareness. This peace does not come and go. It does not depend on circumstances. It simply becomes part of you, like a steady atmosphere that surrounds every thought, every feeling, every moment. Your subconscious is gently installing peace as your natural default state. There is no effort required to feel calm, no need to manage emotions or control thoughts. Peace exists beneath everything, steady and available. Even when the mind becomes active, this calm remains present underneath, grounding you quietly. While you sleep, your nervous system learns this new baseline. It recognizes calm as safe, stillness as supportive, relaxation as normal. The body no longer needs to remain on alert. It is free to rest deeply, knowing there is nothing it needs to protect against right now. Old habits of tension and vigilance begin to loosen. The subconscious releases the belief that constant readiness is necessary. Instead, it learns that peace allows clearer responses, better decisions, and more natural flow. calm does not make you passive, it makes you present. Your breathing remains slow, and even as this state integrates, each breath reinforces this sense of quiet steadiness. Muscles soften further, the heart rhythm steadies, sleep deepens naturally, peace becomes familiar, comfortable. It feels like returning home to yourself. There is no rush here, no urgency, no internal pressure, just a gentle sense of being okay, exactly as you are. As the night continues, this peace weaves itself into how you process experiences. Thoughts arise and pass without pulling you out of balance. Emotions move through without overwhelming you. You remain centered, even as things shift. This calm does not erase feeling, it creates space for it. Space to feel without being consumed. Space to think without spiraling. Space to act without rushing. Your subconscious understands this deeply now. There is a subtle confidence that comes from peace, a quiet assurance that you can handle what arises because you are not reacting from tension. This assurance strengthens as you rest. Your body responds positively to this new default. Energy flows more freely. Fatigue releases more easily. Sleep becomes more restorative. Waking moments begin to feel smoother, steadier. Peace no longer feels like something you must seek. It is something you carry, something you return to automatically. Even when external conditions change, this internal calm remains accessible. As you remain asleep, this peaceful baseline continues to reinforce itself gently, becoming more familiar, more stable, more deeply integrated. By the time you wake, you may notice that calm arrives more quickly, that stress fades more easily, that you feel more centered without trying. And as the night continues, your subconscious continues to hold peace as your natural state, quietly, effortlessly, allowing you to move through life from a place of steadiness, ease, and deep inner calm. As you remain deeply asleep, there is a gentle loosening around expectations. The mind no longer clings to specific outcomes or fixed timelines. Your subconscious begins to understand that attachment creates tension, while openness creates ease. Nothing needs to be forced into a particular shape. Life is allowed to arrive in ways that may even surprise you. You are learning, quietly and naturally, how to release the need for things to happen in only one way. The idea that there is a single correct path begins to soften. In its place comes flexibility, curiosity, trust that something equal or better can unfold when space is left for it. While your body rests, your inner world practices letting go without loss. This release does not feel empty, it feels relieving. Like setting down a weight you no longer need to carry. There is no disappointment here, only openness. The subconscious understands that attachment often comes from fear of missing out or fear of things going wrong. As you sleep, these fears are gently reassured. You are safe even when outcomes are undefined. You are supported even when plans change. You do not lose yourself when expectations shift. Breath remains slow and steady As this understanding settles in, the body stays relaxed. The nervous system remains calm. There is no urgency to decide how things must unfold. Your subconscious trusts that what aligns with you will recognize you when it arrives. Old habits of holding tightly begin to dissolve. The mind no longer needs to replay scenarios or measure progress constantly. There is relief in not monitoring results, relief in allowing movement without supervision. You are learning that detachment is not indifference. It is care without pressure, intention without strain, desire without demand. This balance feels light, freeing, sustainable. As you remain asleep, the subconscious rehearses responding to life with openness rather than fixation. Opportunities are met with curiosity. Changes are met with calm. Redirections are met with trust. Nothing feels threatening when you are not gripping a specific outcome. There is a subtle shift in how you relate to possibility. Instead of narrowing toward one result, your awareness expands. This expansion allows better fitting outcomes to emerge, ones that feel natural rather than forced. Notice how peaceful this feels. There is no internal tug of war, no pressure to make things happen, just a quiet readiness to receive what aligns most deeply with you. Your body responds positively to this release. Muscles remain soft. Sleep remains deep. Energy no longer drains into unnecessary tension. Everything feels lighter. As the night continues, this detachment becomes more familiar. It influences how you wake, how you choose, how you move through your day. You begin to notice that when you let go of rigid expectations, things often unfold more smoothly. You are not losing direction. You are gaining freedom to allow outcomes that support you fully, even if they look different than imagined. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to release attachment gently, replacing it with openness, trust, and calm readiness, allowing life to meet you with possibilities that feel easier, kinder, and more aligned than anything you needed to control. As you rest quietly now, a softer relationship with yourself begins to take shape. There is a gentle turning inward, not with scrutiny or judgment, but with warmth. Your subconscious is learning how to treat you with kindness, especially in moments where you once would have been critical or impatient. This kindness feels natural, deserved, safe. There is no need to evaluate yourself tonight, no need to correct, improve, or fix anything. You are allowed to simply be. As you sleep, your inner world begins to respond to you as it would to someone it truly cares for, with understanding, patience, and compassion. Old patterns of self-criticism begin to loosen. The harsh inner voice softens, not through force, but through lack of fuel. It no longer feels necessary. Your subconscious understands that encouragement creates growth more effectively than pressure ever could. While your body remains deeply relaxed, your emotional landscape becomes gentler. You are allowed to have limits, allowed to have pauses, allowed to need rest. None of these things diminish you. They humanize you. They ground you. Self-compassion settles in quietly, like a steady presence beside you. It does not excuse harmful patterns, but it does remove shame. It allows learning without punishment, growth without exhaustion, healing without urgency. Your subconscious is practicing this new tone now. When a mistake arises, it responds with understanding. When uncertainty appears, it responds with reassurance. When fatigue shows up, it responds with permission to rest. This response becomes familiar, automatic, comforting. Notice how your body feels as this kindness integrates. There is less tension in the chest, less tightness in the jaw, less pressure behind the eyes. Your system relaxes when it realizes it is no longer under constant evaluation. You are learning that compassion toward yourself does not make you complacent. It makes you resilient. It gives you the safety needed to try again, to adjust, to continue without fear of inner punishment. As you sleep, your subconscious begins to rewrite how you relate to your own imperfections. They no longer define you. They no longer require harsh correction. They simply inform you gently about what you need next. There is relief in this shift. Relief from self-monitoring. Relief from comparison. Relief from the feeling that you must earn your own acceptance. You are accepted now as you are in this moment. This compassion extends into how you remember the past. Regrets soften. Old moments lose their sting. You can acknowledge them without reliving them. Your subconscious understands that the past no longer needs to teach through pain. There is also compassion for the parts of you that tried to cope in imperfect ways. They did what they could with what they knew at the time. That understanding brings peace rather than blame. As the night continues, this self-compassion becomes more deeply rooted. It becomes the tone of your inner dialogue, the way you respond to stress, the way you recover from setbacks, the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. By morning, you may notice something subtle but powerful, a little more patience with yourself, a little less inner resistance, a quieter sense of safety within. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to strengthen this compassionate relationship with yourself, allowing kindness to replace criticism, understanding to replace judgment, and gentleness to become the foundation from which you move through your life. As you continue to rest deeply, your subconscious begins to gently prepare your waking life for alignment. There is no effort involved, no planning required. This is not about forcing change, but about allowing your actions to naturally reflect the inner shifts already taking place. Alignment forms quietly from the inside out. Your subconscious understands how to translate inner calm into outer movement. Decisions become simpler. Choices feel clearer. You do not need to overthink what to do next. Your system begins to recognize what feels right and moves toward it without hesitation or strain. While you sleep, subtle pathways form between intention and action. These pathways feel smooth and unforced. You wake with a sense of direction, even if it is quiet and undefined. You trust that the next step will make itself known when the moment arrives. Old patterns of overanalyzing and delaying begin to soften. You are no longer waiting for perfect certainty to move forward. You act when something feels aligned, and you pause when it does not. This responsiveness feels natural, supportive, and steady. Your body remains relaxed as this understanding integrates. There is no urgency to prepare or rehearse. Your subconscious has already done the work of alignment. Waking life simply follows. You may notice that effort feels lighter. Actions require less internal resistance. Even tasks that once felt heavy become more manageable when they are approached from a calm, aligned state. Energy flows more freely when it is not blocked by doubt or pressure. There is trust now in your ability to respond in real time. You do not need to predict every outcome. You trust yourself to adjust as needed. This trust creates confidence in motion rather than confidence in planning. As you sleep, your subconscious rehearses this state repeatedly, moving through the day with presence, listening to signals from within, choosing actions that support your well-being rather than drain it. You are learning to recognize alignment through ease. When something feels unnecessarily heavy, you allow yourself to pause. When something feels supportive, you allow yourself to proceed. This discernment becomes clearer with each cycle of rest. There is no need to push yourself into action. When alignment is present, action feels inviting, almost effortless. This understanding settles in deeply now. Notice how calm your body remains. There is no tension in preparation, no pressure in anticipation. Everything unfolds one step at a time. As the night continues, this alignment becomes more accessible. You begin to move through life with a quieter confidence, trusting that what aligns with you will naturally draw your participation. By morning, you may notice that decisions feel less complicated, that you move with more ease, that you trust your timing more fully, and as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to strengthen this bridge between inner calm and outer action, allowing alignment to guide your steps naturally, so that waking life reflects the clarity, ease, and balance you have cultivated within. As you remain deeply asleep, a subtle expectation begins to take root within you, not an excited anticipation, not a forced optimism, but a quiet assumption that things tend to work out. Your subconscious is learning this as a gentle truth, a baseline belief that life generally moves in supportive directions when you allow it to. There is no need to convince yourself of anything. This expectation forms naturally, like a soft leaning toward ease. It feels calm, almost neutral, yet reassuring. Your inner world begins to operate from the assumption that solutions exist, that help appears, that progress happens, often in simple, unremarkable ways. While your body rests, your subconscious releases the habit of scanning for problems. It no longer needs to prepare for disappointment. Instead, it rests in a mild confidence that whatever arises can be met and handled. This confidence feels steady, not dramatic. Breath remains slow, and even as this understanding settles in, the nervous system relaxes further. There is less tension around the future, less anticipation of struggle. Your system becomes comfortable assuming that things can unfold smoothly. This quiet expectation influences how you perceive events. Small challenges feel less threatening. Delays feel temporary rather than final. Unexpected changes feel manageable rather than alarming. Your subconscious begins to interpret life through a lens of possibility instead of caution. You are not ignoring reality. You are simply choosing not to meet it with fear. This choice happens unconsciously now, without effort. Calm becomes your first response, rather than your last resort. As you sleep, this expectation strengthens gently. It does not require constant reinforcement. It settles in because it feels better, more sustainable, more true to your experience of resilience. Notice how peaceful this feels. There is no inner debate, no pressure to stay positive, just a quiet trust that even if things are uncertain, they are not hostile. Life does not need to be fought to be navigated. Your body responds positively to this shift. Muscles remain relaxed. Sleep remains deep. Energy is conserved rather than spent on unnecessary worry. This expectation also affects how you notice opportunities. You become more open, less guarded, more receptive to small signs of support. Things that once went unnoticed now register as helpful rather than insignificant. As the night continues, this assumption that good tends to emerge becomes more familiar. It integrates into your default outlook. You do not need to remind yourself. Your subconscious carries it for you. By the time you wake, you may notice a subtle difference, less resistance to the day, less tension about what might happen, more ease in meeting whatever arrives. And as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to reinforce this quiet expectation of good, allowing it to guide your perceptions gently so that life feels less like something to brace against and more like something you can move through with calm trust and openness. As you continue sleeping, the night moves on quietly, and beneath your awareness, gentle reinforcement continues. Nothing new needs to be introduced now. What has already settled within you is simply being repeated in soft, low-intensity ways that feel comforting rather than noticeable. Your subconscious responds best to this kind of repetition, calm, familiar, and unforced. There is no need for attention, no need for listening. These subtle messages drift through your sleep naturally, weaving themselves into deeper layers of awareness. Like a soft rhythm in the background, they remind your inner world of what it already knows, that you are safe, supported, and moving in the right direction. Your breathing remains slow and steady as these quiet reinforcements continue. Each breath anchors calm a little more deeply, Each exhale releases any remaining tension without effort. Your body stays heavy, relaxed, fully at rest. The subconscious enjoys repetition when it feels soothing. It recognizes familiar truths and integrates them more completely each time they pass through. Stability strengthens. Trust settles further. Ease becomes more automatic. There is no urgency in this process. Nothing is being rushed or intensified. The repetition remains gentle enough to preserve deep sleep while still doing meaningful work. This is how change becomes permanent, through calm consistency rather than force. Old patterns are not being confronted. They are simply being outgrown. The subconscious no longer feeds them attention. Instead, it reinforces states of calm, balance, openness, and quiet confidence. What is repeated gently becomes familiar. What is familiar becomes normal. Your nervous system stays relaxed as these signals repeat softly. There is no activation, no alertness, just a steady sense of safety that allows deeper integration to occur. You are not required to remember any of this. Conscious recall is unnecessary. The subconscious absorbs what supports you and discards what does not. This natural filtering keeps everything aligned with your well-being. As the night continues, these gentle reinforcements cycle beneath the surface of sleep. They repeat calm assumptions. They repeat safety. They repeat trust. Each repetition settles more deeply, like layers of comfort forming around your inner world. Notice how effortless this feels. There is no strain, no effort, no pressure to change. And yet, change continues quietly, steadily, naturally. Your body remains supported by the bed. Your mind remains unburdened. Your subconscious continues its work smoothly, without interruption. This repetition does not overwhelm. It soothes, it reassures, it stabilizes. It allows everything you have already accepted to become more deeply rooted. By morning, you may not remember this part of the night at all. And that is perfect. The work does not require memory. It requires rest, and you are resting deeply now. And as you remain asleep, these low-intensity reinforcements continue softly, repeating what your subconscious has already chosen to accept, allowing calm, trust, and alignment to settle into place quietly, naturally, and completely. As the night moves gently toward its later hours, your subconscious begins to prepare for the transition into morning. There is no signal to wake, yet no pulling forward. This preparation happens quietly, beneath deep rest, like a soft alignment setting itself in place before movement begins. Your inner world starts to organize itself calmly, not with urgency, not with planning, but with readiness. There is a sense that when you wake, you will do so smoothly, naturally, without friction. Your subconscious understands how to bridge rest and action with ease. While you remain asleep, your system rehearses waking gently, eyes opening without heaviness, thoughts arriving without rush, the body moving without resistance. This rehearsal feels calm and reassuring. as if your inner world already knows how the morning will unfold. There is no pressure to be productive, no expectation to perform. The focus is simply on clarity and steadiness. Your subconscious prepares you to meet the day with presence rather than momentum, with awareness rather than urgency. Breath remains slow and steady as this transition is quietly prepared. Your nervous system stays relaxed. Nothing is being activated prematurely. Everything happens at the right pace. Old habits of waking tension, immediate worry, rushing thoughts, physical tightness are gently released. Your subconscious understands that waking does not require alertness through stress. It can happen through calm awareness. There is a subtle sense of orientation forming, not a plan, but a readiness. A feeling that you will know where you are, how you feel, and what matters most when you wake. This readiness feels grounding, not demanding. Your body remains deeply at rest as this alignment settles in. Muscles stay relaxed. The mind stays quiet. Sleep remains uninterrupted. Preparation does not disturb rest, it enhances it. You are being guided toward a smooth return to waking consciousness. No abrupt shifts, no jarring transitions, just a gentle unfolding when the time comes. As the night continues, this readiness becomes more stable. It integrates with the calm you have cultivated throughout sleep. When waking arrives, it will carry that calm forward naturally. You may notice that mornings begin to feel different, less abrupt, less heavy, less reactive. This change begins here, during rest, where your subconscious practices waking with ease. There is trust now in your ability to meet the day calmly. You do not need to brace yourself. You do not need to prepare for struggle. You can meet what comes with steadiness and presence, and as you remain asleep, your subconscious continues to gently prepare this transition, aligning rest with wakefulness, so that when morning arrives, you emerge smoothly, calmly, and clearly, carrying the ease of the night forward into your day.